All right, welcome everyone to episode 2 of the Great Debate. Today we are debating the Rise of Skywalker. So I am Will with the Padawan Pops YouTube channel, and we have two very special guests that will be debating today. First, we have Christopher with Seriously Star Wars. Hey Chris.
Hey, Will, how's it
How's
going?
Pretty good, man. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. This is, as some of the comments say, this is where the fun begins.
Yes, this is going to be a lot of fun. So, Christopher was going to be the star of the Last Jedi debate, but life kind of happens sometimes. So, we're glad to have you here this go around. And Christopher will be defending the Rise of Skywalker today.
Yeah, I feel like I have my work cut out for me here.
You do. It's an uphill climb. I'll go ahead and tell you.
Yeah.
We also have Lex here with Jedi Lex. How's it going?
It's going. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Hey,
of
Lex.
course. Thanks for hopping on. So, no surprise here. Lex is going to be the critic of the Rise of Skywalker. I know if you joined us for the Last Jedi Great Debate, Lex was not a fan of that either. So we're
Nope.
going to keep playing on that hatred and kind of let it build up a little bit.
Yeah, it's festering.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. You know what they say, Lex? Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering.
at least to
Yeah.
say
I think the Sith is
Yeah.
like calling me, according to your little short there.
Yeah.
I think the suffering happened for Lex today when she rewatched The Rise of Skywalker to get ready for the debate.
That was pitiful. I couldn't even keep my eyes on the screen.
uh,
So let's go ahead and hit the comments real quick. They're already going. So we have Fatherly Fandom saying this should be interesting. I think
Hey,
you are
Chris.
definitely
Fellow
correct.
Chris. Yeah.
Fellow Chris, it's a Chris party. Last time it was a Will party, so now we have multiple Chris's. Tony is in the house. Let's go.
Tony.
Annie, welcome in.
Annie, the chosen one?
It
Little
looks
Annie?
that way. Little Annie, are you okay? We have Fatherly Fandom. This is where the fun begins.
This is.
Robbie, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Robbie.
Jedi Secrets is in the house again. Tony doesn't like the Rise of Skywalker.
Thank you.
Drawing
I'm
a
glad
line in the
someone
sand.
else's.
Drawing a line in the sand.
And then Jedi Secrets has a couple of issues with the Rise of Skywalker, but still enjoyed it. I can respect that. You know, not every
Yeah.
film is perfect. We were discussing that beforehand.
No, none of them are.
Nope. So very quickly, I just want to run through each of the topics that we're going to have, and then we will hop into the debate. So the way the format will go before we get started, I will pose a question. I will just alternate who gets to start. Just feel free to hop in if you have any arguments or if something is just blatantly offensive to you. Let the other person finish their thought, and then you can interject. Just, we don't want talking over. I will cut your mic. Isn't that what they say on the debate stages? I'll cut your mic. So,
Oh,
which
you're
I don't
that
think.
person.
I don't think that'll be an issue here, though. So we'll have a good, clean debate. We will not declare a winner because all Star Wars opinions are valid for the most part. So we're just going to throw the thoughts out there and see what happens. So our first topic is going to be the infamous quote, "Somehow Palpatine has returned." I think that's kind of like the entire meme of the movie. We will have the plot and pacing. I believe this was one of the greater complaints about the film from the professional critics was the pacing. We'll have everyone's favorite topic returning from the Rise of or the Last Jedi, which is Reylo.
Hashtag Reylo. Yeah.
Hashtag Reylo. The Reylo people will be getting mad at me in this. And then all the Jedi, all the Sith line from the final battle on Exegol. And then everyone's favorite Skywalker, Rey Skywalker, will be the main event. So I had fun making these topics because I am not a fan of the Rise of Skywalker, but I can see good sides to each thing. I really enjoyed the Han Solo scene. I thought the battle on Exegol when they're doing the dogfights in space, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
The lightsaber duel on the Death Star was cool. So I don't hate the whole movie, but by and large, I will just let it be out there. It's my least favorite Star Wars movie, but I will try to judge fairly and moderate fairly. So this is helping me to broaden my horizons here. So we got a few more comments before we hop in. Fatherly Fandom says he'll keep an open mind, but also cringes at the Reylo stuff, I'm assuming. Topic 5 is the worst. That would be
Rey Skywalker.
Rey Skywalker, everyone's favorite Skywalker. And Fatherly Fandom also not a fan of Rey Skywalker, but Tony.
Oh,
If Rey can be a Skywalker, so can Reva. Don't say that. Don't say that.
No, Reva wasn't nearly as talented as Rey.
She knew a lot more Skywalkers than Rey did, though.
Yeah, I don't think that counts.
So we're going to hop right in with somehow Palpatine has returned. So Christopher, we're going to lead this off with you. I would say this movie starts off, I think this line happens within the first 25 minutes or so that they get the news.
Maybe 10 or 15 minutes, I think it starts out in.
Yep, and so the opening crawl of The Rise of Skywalker, the first words are, "The dead speak." Now, with the group I was sitting at in the theater, we looked at each other and said, "Oh boy," but not in a good way, because when we read it, it seemed as if it might turn out to be corny. So, how can you defend bringing back Emperor Palpatine versus building upon Kylo Ren being the bad guy in this movie?
So, I think all through Star Wars, at least the movie history, it's been a story about Skywalkers and Palpatines since Episode 1. You gotta think, like, you had Senator Palpatine and Skywalker, like Anakin Skywalker, that whole story. And then the original trilogy had, again, Palpatine was the villain in that. And then you had Luke Skywalker as the protagonist there. So I think it made sense to bring Palpatine back as the villain. I really wish I was around for the Last Jedi debate, because how they did Snoke in the Last Jedi, where he kind of they killed him off after only getting a hologram in the previous movie. That's kind of what happened with with Emperor Palpatine, anyways. So if you remember in the original trilogy, Empire Strikes Back, you got the hologram of Palpatine, and then he died in the throne room in the next movie. So I think the Palpatine thing makes sense. And even so, I didn't read the book. I know I've heard what the book says about the whole Palpatine returning, that he transferred his essence to another clone on Exegol. I'm okay with that, because like in the expanded universe, they did do the whole clone Palpatine, so they kind of took from that a little bit and made Palpatine a clone. So I am good with that part of it. And Palpatine, he's one of the best bad guys in like science fantasy movies to date. So
that's true.
Yeah, I think it just makes sense that Palpatine is the big bad of the whole Skywalker saga.
That's fair. Lex, what would you say?
I mean, I agree kind of what Chris was saying. I did some of the research like prior, and it was interesting to like kind of read how his essence like essentially transferred, like, and I was like, okay, this is like interesting. I don't know how like realistic that would be, but I guess they made it happen. Palpatine, in my opinion, just as Chris said, is a phenomenal bad guy. Like, he basically played devil's advocate, but I think for them to kind of bring him back that way, I just really was not a fan. They didn't expand. I feel like, as you were saying, they didn't give Kylo Ren. They could have, made him the supreme leader, given him more opportunity. They also didn't have to kill Snoke off so soon, and they could have expanded upon Snoke, because he was like, I made Snoke. Well, you made Snoke, and then he died, like, within a few seconds, like, it really wasn't anything, like, crazy. So I just think, bringing him back wasn't the best option. You could have created another bad guy, someone just as powerful, but I think to kind of like bring him back and taint his, bad guyness with associating it to the sequels for me was like crushing because I like looked up to that character. Well, I like looked up to him because obviously I'm Jedi Lex, not Sith Lex. But like I think that he just had such a good presence like in the prequels and then, you know, going forward. And then you kind of associated him again into the sequels, and I thought that kind of just like killed what he had going. Like you should have just left it where it was and not touched upon that and done something with another character differently.
Yeah. So, Christopher, if I were to describe the Skywalker saga as the Palpatine saga, what would you say about that?
I mean, it kind of makes sense as well. Like
Yeah.
like I said, the story of Skywalkers and Palpatines the whole way through.
The
Palpatine was
continuity
more
is
on
not bad.
on the back end. No, yeah, Palpatine was kind of more on the back end, like pulling the strings, as Leia said, all from the beginning. So, I mean, you could call it the Palpatine saga as well.
It's true.
You really could. And if you read some of the what was it? Some of the comics and stuff, and some of the it said like Palpatine actually used the Force to create Anakin Skywalker.
Yep.
So it's one big loop.
Yep,
almost.
just a big family drama, right? It's
Yeah,
like the
so
Hatfields and
it
McCoys
makes
of the
sense.
galaxy.
Yeah.
Lex, any closing thoughts on Palpatine returning?
I don't know. I think the Palpatine saga would have fit better, honestly, because they brought him back. They, you know, had Rey come out as the grandchild, but I mean, everything seems to kind of like connect in the end. But honestly, I think they should have just left him for dead, not brought him back, because
No.
that's just, you know, okay, but you could have brought Vader back then. You know,
Yeah,
like you could have
mean,
brought all these characters could have been introduced or brought back from the dead when you had to bring Palpatine back. But I get it, you know, it seems that Palpatine is the man. So I don't know. It could have been the Palpatine saga, but I think it would have been just left.
I mean, Palpatine's. I would argue that Palpatine was probably the most powerful dark side user. So to have him come back and use that, see that dark side power, use that dark side power to come back. I mean, we didn't see it on screen, but we got it in other content like the book and stuff where he transferred his essence. So like, it gives it that much more backstory as well. And then like to the whole Snoke thing, Snoke was just a pawn. I think he was just a pawn.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to be.
No, but I think it made sense as well. Like when I saw the first two parts of the sequel trilogy, the Force Awakens and the Last Jedi, when I saw Snoke as a hologram, and then when he died in the throne room in the Last Jedi, I was like, yeah, no, they're setting something up with Palpatine, because it mirrored Empire and Jedi. So I think it makes sense.
That's fair. Let's see what the comments have to say about this.
Oh, that should be fun.
So, Andrea, Padawan Chronicles, welcome to the debate. Fatherly Fandom. Yes, Christopher did have a fun theory about Palpatine's return. So if you have not seen Christopher's video that dropped today, definitely go subscribe to his channel after this, or subscribe now, watch the video later. Same with Lex, but Christopher had some pretty cool theories with the Night Sisters in there, which, you know, it's not crazy for Star Wars to overwrite what is written in books to make it canon. So hey, maybe Dave is working a little bit of his Night Sister magic and playing a cleanup role here.
Maybe.
Robbie wished Palpatine never returned and they had Snoke be the main villain. I tend to agree, Robbie. I think they did Snoke wrong.
Thank you.
Andrea hates that Palpatine somehow returned. It made Vader's sacrifice less significant. Yeah. I do agree with that as well. I think it's unfortunate that Anakin did not bring true balance to the Force, but there's debate on what true balance even looks like, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right.
Robbie says Kylo should have been the villain. Yeah, I think that would have been best given Palpatine being dead, and that was actually the plan of the original script. If you haven't read that yet, you can Google it. It's out there. Kylo Ren was going to be the bad guy. Andrea hates the First Order in general. It's like the Empire 2.0 and isn't a natural continuation of the OT.
Yes.
It's more like a reboot. The First Order is technically going to be the Empire 3.0 because I think Thrawn is going to be Empire 2.0. So
Yeah.
be interesting to see, but I agree. But man, that final order, that was some pretty good writing too. I don't know. So, fatherly fandom. I just wish they would have established it a little earlier or maybe planned this all out a little more. I think you're onto something there. The sequel trilogy was poorly planned. Even if you love it, I would just hate to have been the person logistically in charge of trying to land that plane because it was all over the place. Love it or hate it, they did the marathon directors. And that's just, I mean, there's a reason no one does that. It's not a good idea. So, but I don't think that's any of the actors or any of the directors' faults per se. It was just a mess. Jedi Secrets likes how they brought Palpatine back in episode 9, but they don't understand why did they kill him off in episode 6. So yeah, I would say George Lucas probably didn't plan on him coming back, maybe. I don't think that was written into George's sequel trilogy, so yeah, agree with Robbie. They could have saved his death for the 9th movie, but killing him off in 6 doesn't make sense. Yeah, it causes some continuity issues. I'm pulling double duty here. Don't forget to hit that like button. If you like the video, maybe more people will see it. And then essentially Palpatine won at the end of Rise of Skywalker. Every Skywalker is dead and the Palpatine lives on. Palpatine even becomes Skywalker. I mean, man, how much better could you write this? Justice for Snoke. Justice for Babu. Babu Frick is probably the best part of this movie. I don't know if that's debatable. We love Babu Frick here.
Oh yeah, Babu Frick, yeah.
We like to see him. He's when they brought him back at the very end of the movie, do you know that was a Steven Spielberg thing?
Oh,
so the rumor is, I want to say it may not. I think it was Steven Spielberg, but maybe it wasn't. Some big director was watching it like for a test run or something, and they were like, "Did Babu Frick die on that planet? We can't have that happening." So he's CGI'd in that Zori Bliss's ship. So he originally, rumor is, didn't make it, but then they were like, no, he's a gem. We have to tie that up. So he survived. And then George's treatment of the sequels did involve Maul being the big bad. Yeah, he had an apprentice, I believe.
That could have been.
I forget the name. Tony knows it if he wants to drop it in the chat. I know he knows it.
I think it was Darth Talon, wasn't it?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Darth Talon.
And she was like a Twi'lek that was bad.
Yeah. But let me say that, like, for people who are hating on the Palpatine returning, you're okay with Darth Maul returning, who died more than once?
Yeah, we like him.
I think so.
We're inconsistent, okay?
I mean, don't get me wrong. Darth Maul's my favorite character, and it would be great to see him again. But like, I don't think he was experienced enough to come back.
Yeah.
After dying in Rebels.
Yeah, so originally George brought back Darth Talon, and it was about the underworld, which I think we're going to see a little bit more of that on screen as we go forward.
Yeah.
We're okay with Darth Maul. All right, so let's move forward to keep this thing rolling. Plot point number 2, the greatest complaint from the professional critics. I remember going through reading it before I went and watched the movie was like, take your inhaler with you because it doesn't slow down. And probably the most correct statement a movie critic has ever written. Lex brought her inhaler for the stream. So I think that's a pretty fair argument because, man, this movie doesn't really have time to slow down. Just at the beginning, you learn that like it's 16 hours or something like that until all of his Star Destroyers blow up every planet or something along those lines. That's a plot gem in and of itself. But Lex, what do you think about the overall plot and the pacing of the movie? With the plot being having to find these 2 MacGuffins to get to, not Snoke, to get to Palpatine on Exegol, and then just the movie never slowing down. What do you think about that?
Yeah, when I was trying to watch it this morning, I I was trying to like multitask and get something else done while I was like kind of doing a refresher on it, and I felt like anytime I like slightly took my eyes off the screen and then like looked back, we were somewhere else. And I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh god, like what just happened?" Like I was trying to like keep up with it, but it's just so much. It's like kind of overwhelming in my opinion. Like I feel like they're trying to do a lot. Like there's so much that needs to get done in order to, get to this point on Exegol. And I mean, overall, I don't know, like I just feel like it could have been done better overall. Like I think they crammed a lot of things that maybe didn't necessarily need to be in there. They introduced a lot of characters that I don't know really added to the plot anyway. I mean, it was cool seeing that there was some other troopers that deserted and stuff, but like I mean, other than the cool battle on the Death Star, I don't really think that that scene, in my opinion, like that whole them going to that planet, crash landing, it
Mhm.
just like I feel like they were adding scenes to kind of get to the point that didn't need to be there. But for me, it was really fast paced. I thought it was very choppy. I couldn't really keep up. It's a lot going on.
Yeah. Christopher, what do you think about the plot and pacing of the movie?
I mean, I will agree. The pacing was very fast because they crammed so much into it.
Yeah.
And they could have stretched it into two movies, but I think two movies at a slower pace that would have been a little bit like not boring, but watching other movies that are slower paced, sometimes I fall asleep in the theater.
That's true.
Not saying that I have with a Star Wars movie, but with the Rise of Skywalker, the pace of it, like it happened, everything happens, everything's crammed in there, everything happens so quickly. Like you really got to pay attention, and I kind of like that for a movie where you really got to pay attention to catch stuff like that. So the pacing, I don't mind. Like I'm not a huge fan of how much they crammed in because they try. I know JJ tried to please all of the haters from the last two movies as well as everyone who enjoyed the last two movies. He just tried to please everyone, but
Yeah.
I am okay with the pacing. The plot is I don't know. I enjoyed the plot. Like yes, I don't know. I don't know if they could have done without going to Endor because they needed the dagger. Like the dagger, maybe you could have done without, but they needed to somehow get to Endor and find that other Sith Wayfinder, right? So
Yeah.
in a
I
way, I guess they did kind of need the dagger to find the Wayfinder.
Yeah. So I will say, if you read Shadow of the Sith, which is a book that came out last summer, it's my favorite Star Wars book that I've read. And it's essentially Luke and Lando chasing Ochi. And you
Mm.
get so much backstory on what happens in episode 9. And so it makes the dagger make a little more sense. But at the same time, I think a lot of the complaints come from the fact that the Wayfinders are the driving plot point of the whole movie. Um, and so I guess that's more of the complaint is why are we having to chase down two Wayfinders and we need a dagger to find one, and it is a little choppy, I would say, to say the
Yeah.
least. But I don't know that there was a way around that choppiness
No,
given.
I don't think because like if you took away the Wayfinders,
Oh, how would you
I
get
don't
there?
think they would really. Yeah, how would you
Yeah.
get there?
It's
Yeah,
like a
so
secret location that you don't have a like, how do
Yeah,
you get to the secret? So I mean, yeah, you almost kind of like essentially needed them, but
yeah.
yeah,
took a lot of steps to find them.
What about
right.
the plot point of Finn turning out to be force sensitive here? Lex, what do you think about them kind of dropping Finn being force sensitive in The Last Jedi and then picking it back up in Episode 9?
I feel like they did the boy wrong, Like I think that they should have just continued with it rather than just dropping it and then trying to pick it back up again. Like it
Yeah.
just I felt like his character was incomplete, and I know that like from some interviews that he's done, he feels some type of way about it.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't know. They should have either not had him as a Jedi or force sensitive at all, or they should have had him as a Jedi. Like it shouldn't have been this like ebb and flow of now he's force sensitive, now he's not. Like it should have just
Yeah.
been continuous through. I think that they should have just left him. It would have been interesting to see like a little force sensitive like stormtrooper, that dropped out and then, became a Jedi. I thought that would have been interesting, but I think they tooled with his character a little bit too much. And then kind of having him do, I have something to tell you, Rey, and then doesn't tell her anything. So I thought that was like, I don't know. I think they just played with his character way too much for my liking.
Yeah. Christopher?
So, because The Last Jedi happened like immediately right after The Force Awakens, like there wasn't such a gap. There wasn't like a 3-year gap or 7-year gap or whatever between movies. I think it makes sense that they made him force sensitive again. Like it wasn't that much of a gap where they were like, oh, he's not force sensitive now, and then now he is. I think it was just they explored another storyline with Finn in The Last Jedi, showing off like some different. Yeah,
that's a good point.
But like if it was like more like a 3-year gap or a 7-year gap, like between like some of the other movies, then I think it would have been more of a complaint. But I think they did it okay with that.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it that way. Like with the fact that 8 does just start the minute after 7.
Yeah, like
so
there's no year gap or 2-year gap or whatever. So he's still force sensitive at this time.
Yeah,
and then also like it in the Ahsoka series, which everyone loves, I think.
Yeah,
am I right?
Yeah.
We had that scene with we had that scene with Ahsoka and Sabine's trying to do the training and stuff, and Ahsoka says like everyone has the ability to use the Force. It's just some people need more training and stuff like that. And even George says that. Like he said that in interviews that everyone can use the Force. Just depends on their skill level. So I think it makes sense.
Okay. No, I think that's probably the best explanation that I've heard of why it's okay for that big of a jump with all of that. So let's hop into the comments again. We have here the end of the trilogy, Leia was supposed to become Chancellor. Yeah, so I think is that the one from that episode 9 plot, I believe, that they didn't get to do?
Yeah, I think so.
And then J.J. Abrams does not like to stop and pause. That is a trademark of his. True. It's probably his greatest issue. Sometimes it's his greatest strength, but other times, man, it does not work out. Robbie did not like the dagger map. I'm with you, Robbie, but yeah, they had to do something, and they got fairly creative with a dagger that just happened to be the shape of the Death Star.
Yeah.
And there's actually no canon behind why it was exactly that shape. Like the Death Star would have had to broken perfectly for that to even work out. But
yeah,
a lot of interesting elements that were not explored. Yeah, for sure. For sure, I think a lot of it was rushed. Tony falls asleep all the time, everywhere.
Yeah, especially Andor.
That's Tony's nap show, I think. The dagger, yeah. People are not a fan of the dagger. We didn't get much Knights of Ren, who did almost nothing. Now that's a complaint point right there. I think we need to address that in my episode 7 debate. That one, gosh, good point, Robbie. Good point. Can we all go back to the OT for a second? Because I remember watching those movies. I still do, by the way, but those movies took time to explain things that were going on. Yeah. So I think that's the benefit of having one person writing the whole trilogy is George knew when he needed to introduce certain things, and he had his mind, for the most part, made up on the big plot points. There's some debate here and there about what he knew and when he knew it, but they just didn't have the luxury of that in the sequel trilogy. So yeah, there was no time to explain very much at all. Yeah, this is about Shadow of the Sith. Rey's parents are like the main characters of that book. It's so good. I love it. It definitely increased my sequel viewing experience, or enriched it. The original trilogy did way better explain each plot point. Yep, for sure. 14 or 15 minutes on each planet. Yeah, we agree that the OT probably is more continuous of a story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's John Boyega. He loves Star Wars, and he deserved a lot better. And I think we hit a little bit on that maybe in the Last Jedi debate, too, that John deserved a little bit better than what he got.
Yep.
More training with Rey. Yeah. And there's even in the book that was between episode 8 and 9, they didn't really flesh that out too much either. I think it's Resistance Reborn. That book kind of didn't help at all for bridging the gap. 14, yeah. Dr. Mad Studio. It's late in your corner of the world. Thanks for hopping in and joining, Doctor. We appreciate it. Andor. When I retire in my 80s, Andor will put me to sleep in the nursing home. Hey, and then if you need a really long nap, you can have Andor season 2 in a couple years.
Right.
Yep. Everyone can be force sensitive in Ahsoka. Yeah, I'm cool with that, especially when it brings back in the midichlorians, how good you can be. There's still a measuring stick, but anyone technically can.
Yeah.
And Disney wanted to rush out a profit off their investment. That's true. They did rush it, but also I think between the 3 movies plus Rogue One, it paid for their purchase of Star Wars. So it's hard to argue what they did. I think each film did about $1 billion, and that's how much they needed. So, to each their own, I suppose. They bought it. They can do what they want with it.
Yeah, for as bad as people complain about the sequel trilogy, like even The Force Awakens, people have complaints about that. Like these movies made billions of dollars.
Well, the Force Awakens for a time was like the number 2 release ever or something like that. So I mean,
not bad for some bad movies.
Yeah, they accomplished their purpose. I mean, Disney, you can complain about Disney, and I complain about them a lot, but their number one job is to make money, and they did it. So good for them. That's what they were supposed to do with it. So if George wants to sell Star Wars and hope that someone wants to create a better story than make money, Disney might not have been the best people to sell it to, because that's their job at the end of the day. Dr. Mad Studio, my views on the sequels are mixed at best. Some things I like, some things I didn't. Yeah, I think I agree with that statement wholeheartedly. I really like aspects of it and really don't like other aspects. And yeah, they made a profit. And The Force Awakens, I agree there. It's a great movie, in my opinion. So we have, if you watch professional wrestling, there's always kind of a mid-card main event. So there's usually a pretty good match right to start off, and then there's a good one right in the middle, and then at the very end, there's a good one. So we are at the mid-card main event, which is going to be Reylo. So Reylo fans, I think this movie was very good for y'all because it culminates with Rey and Kylo Ren kissing after killing Rey's grandpa. So, I laughed out loud in the movie theaters when they kissed each other. It was just like the cherry on top for me sitting there and going, what the heck did I just watch? But, Christopher, can you defend the Reylo dynamic throughout the course of this movie? Because you might have to dig into the other 2 movies as well, just to get up to this point. But explain to me how we got to that kiss.
I mean, again, like if you watch it as a whole trilogy, I think there were little things, little breadcrumbs, little things leading up to them kind of having this moment at the end, and it was just like a little kiss. It's not like it's not, I mean, I'm sure if Kylo or Ben Solo survived, maybe they would be like this Jedi training couple, training new Jedis in the next movie. But I feel like there were moments, like in The Last Jedi, they had their moments where they touched hands there in The Last Jedi. So I feel like that was one of the moments.
That's so awkward.
Is that one that made you laugh, Will, in the theater? The touching of the hands?
I did, because it's like, can you tell he was raised and not allowed to have any relationships when, it makes sense that a kiss killed him. If, touching fingers was the big thing, that kiss being enough to stop his heart makes sense, I guess.
I mean, I don't think he died because of the kiss. I think he more died because he used so much force energy bringing Rey back to life. Because Rey was pretty much dead.
She was dead, yeah. She was dead.
Yeah, so... And where Rey used the same force energy to heal, like she wasn't bringing someone back from the dead. So I think that's why Kylo died. not from the kiss.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
But
the kiss just killed me.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it makes sense. Like, I think they had little breadcrumbs and stuff in the other two previous movies leading up to their moment there. But they always had this connection in all three movies. Like, you know, when in the Force Awakens, when Kylo was like, "Oh, what girl?" Like, it's almost like he kind of knew somehow that there was this Force sensitive girl, but he didn't know who it was. So yeah. I think there's things, there's little tells in these other movies that kind of lead up to this. So I'm pretty good with the Reylo thing. The kiss, I mean, it's better than the sister and brother kissing. We're a step up from that.
Your moderator's from Alabama. I mean,
oh, you guys do a lot of that down there?
I'm messing with you. Unfortunately, maybe. I don't know.
That's why you're not there anymore.
Yeah, so I had to get out of Dodge, right? No,
right.
I did not marry my cousin. So Lex, what do you think about the kiss heard around the galaxy and Reylo in general?
Yeah, I mean, I get the Force sense, like the crumbs and things, but was it that they had to be kind of like, you know, have this like little moment together, or just that they were meant to be the dyads of the Force? Like that I understood, that they clearly had a connection because they were like the light and dark of the Force, the two powers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it could have just been left at that, in my opinion. I don't think that they needed to have like a little, you know, kiss to commemorate it. Like, she didn't kiss him when she stabbed him. Like, you know,
that's true.
She could have just, you know, he could have just put his hands on her and, you know, transferred the Force and called it a day. But I don't know, because I also felt like they were kind of sprinkling Finn to kind of have this like thing towards her. So I don't know. It was a little confusing because I thought Finn was kind of towards Rey, and then all of a sudden it's Rey and Kylo, and I don't know. I know a lot of people are big fans of Reylo, but I just think it could have been done without. Like, I get they have that Force sensitive relationship, but I don't think that it needed to be like a love relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too in the book, I think I have the book on my shelf. I think, and I've read the greater part of it, flipping around, hitting the high points, and so I think they do address it as it is a like a congratulatory kiss more so than one that is meant to have any, you know, intimate emotions behind it. But at the same time, we get none of that on screen, so like, you know, it's hard to differentiate that when there's an entire fraction of the fan base just waiting to explode for the two of them to get together. You know, it seems like JJ was trying to make everybody happy, and that's all I will say there, I believe. Anything else on Reylo that y'all would like to discuss? I think there's probably a lot to say, but I think y'all did a pretty good job with it. Fatherly fandom, not a fan of the kiss. I think that kiss is definitely a hot button topic for sure.
Yeah.
And despite the shortcomings of the sequels, it's never stopped my love for Star Wars ever since I was 6. Just move on and look forward to the next gig. Man, that's a very good point. Even though I was not a huge fan of The Last Jedi, I was still absolutely pumped to go watch The Rise of Skywalker. And even though I really didn't like it, I was super pumped for The Mandalorian and everything else that comes out. So that's a great point about Star Wars as a whole. And I think that describes probably 99% of us.
Yeah. That's how all of us should be.
Yeah, I agree. Just a peck. That's funny. Just a peck. I wish they kept Rey's parents as nobody and not someone we all know. Yeah, they kind of split the difference there. They were nobodies that were actually somebodies. Yeah, I think a lot of us might agree with Robbie there on that one. Anakin must have been rolling in his grave seeing Kylo bring Rey back to life. Anakin was probably rolling over in his grave when he saw his lightsaber getting buried on Tatooine as well in the sand. But that's probably he rolled a lot in his grave throughout the sequels. But hey, he wasn't there to help out except for talking to Rey one time. All right, so last thing I'm going to address is that why did they make Poe Dameron a spice runner if we all know him as a hero in the Resistance in the comics? So I actually haven't read a lot of the comics with dealing with the sequel trilogy. I read The Rise of Kylo Ren, so I'm not 100% familiar with this Jedi Secrets, but I think making him a spice runner was kind of trying to make him more like Han Solo as far as how we view him. That was my opinion on it. So I didn't mind that, but I also am not familiar with what you're saying, so that could change my opinion if that's not how they had originally depicted him. Alabama Slam. Always got to get one in on them. Wish they would have established the dyads earlier. Yeah, I think that's kind of a pretty cool idea. I didn't include that in this debate because I think it's kind of cool. I don't think a ton of people just straight up hate the dyad idea. So I think that's a cool idea with what you can do in the Force.
Yeah.
Finn totally crushed on Rey. He did. That was in The Force Awakens. Also, he spends a lot of time yelling her name in each movie. That's like his...
In every movie, yeah.
Yeah, he had to have it. I think it turned into a joke by the end of it. My biggest problem with the sequels is that they did not map out a plan for the trilogy. 100%. The marathon strategy, turns out it didn't work. Always giving congratulatory kisses.
That was an interesting way to put that.
Yeah, maybe they're not that common. I don't know. And then if I was given a choice to make the sequels, they would have been different, but that's a story for another day. Put out your script online. We would love to see it.
Yeah.
I'm all in for fan fiction. So next up, warming up to the main event.
Oh.
While we're on Exegol, we have this back and forth between Rey and her grandfather, Emperor Palpatine, and he says he is all the Sith, giving this idea that all of the Sith, they kill their master, and then it's almost just like they're a part of them at this point. Like he's the culmination of all these Sith. And Rey gives the I am Iron Man response and says, I am all the Jedi, which it came out way too soon after Avengers for them to use this line, but that's a different story. She says, I am all the Jedi, after she just got a pep talk from a bunch of Jedi that she don't even know. So, Lex, what do you think about this concept that all of Star Wars history, all the Jedi and all the Sith lead up to this one moment of two Palpatines fighting each other?
Yeah, I don't know. I forgot that even happened until this morning, and I was watching it, and I hear them say that, and I was like, hold on, like, I get it, within the Force, like once you pass, you're technically, still within the Force, and you're able to pass on that knowledge. So from that aspect of all the Jedi, all the Sith, it kind of makes sense because you're able to, pull and get knowledge from all the, the prior Jedi. But for all of them, like for Rey to be the culmination of all of the Jedi when she has had the least Jedi training or involvement with anything that's really occurred was kind of crazy to me. But I mean, I don't know. That scene really caught me off guard. I don't know how else to explain it.
That's fair. Christopher, what do you think about this concept?
I mean, I agree with Lex for the all the Sith. It makes sense for the Sith, because once they die, they don't really do anything else. They either attach themselves to an object. I think is what they can do. They can't. They can't turn themselves into a Force ghost. They got to like attach themselves to an object or something like that. So I get all the Sith stuff. So that makes sense, and it adds to the Palpatine of it all. Like it just makes him more powerful, more knowledgeable in the dark side of the Force. For all the Jedi, I didn't hate that. I think that the all the Jedi, like it's very similar to what Anakin was trying to tell Ahsoka in the Ahsoka series. Like it's stuff passed on from master to apprentice, to apprentice, and I think the movie, like The Last Jedi, didn't really give a fair time frame of how long Rey was being trained by Luke, but I think that knowledge being passed down from his master and then from Yoda before, like whoever trained Yoda and all that stuff, all that knowledge being passed, and even through the Jedi texts. I think on all the Jedi, I think it's more of like knowledge from their masters and from the texts and stuff. So I think it makes sense, but I think it could have been worded differently, maybe.
Yeah.
But I see why they did it.
Yeah, as not a fan of the movie, I can see where the significance of this battle, right? Like, this is it. There's only Palpatine as far as the Sith goes, and as far as Rey knows, Ben Solo's dead in a hole behind her. So really, that was the culmination of one of the two was going to win, and that was it. So I'm okay with the significance of the line of the Jedi versus the line of the Sith. Something's got to give here. But the line itself, to me, is a cheesy line, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially, like, I think it was the same year that Tony Stark says, "I am Iron Man." I think that was earlier in 2019, right? So it seemed as if it was almost kind of a ripoff of that. But, I kind of get where they're coming from on that.
I wonder how they could have, phrased that differently.
Yeah. But also,
yeah.
In the Rise of Skywalker, that scene where all the ships show up,
mm-hmm.
How similar was that to, again, Avengers Endgame? That
happened. Oh my god.
It really was. Like the portals.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, like, seeing that in
goosebumps.
theaters, yeah, same goosebumps, same, like, I got chills watching that scene, too. I still do watching the movie today.
And if you're going to copy a movie, I guess that Avengers Endgame is not a bad movie to copy.
No,
the number one movie of all time, right? So, yeah, good point there. So, Kenzie, Tano, Kenzie's in the house.
Hey,
Thanks
Kenzie.
for hopping in. And then Fatherly Fandom, there are okay parts of this movie. This is not one of them. So I think we're talking about the I am Iron Man scene.
So he prefers the kiss.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Fatherly Fandom, do you prefer the kiss or the I am all the Jedi line? Drop that in the comments. Robbie liked hearing all the different Jedi, but I wish we got Luke to appear to aid Rey in the final battle. Also wish Kylo wasn't beaten so easily. So yeah, I'm sure, Robbie, you've probably seen this, but there's like an edit of this where you can actually, someone CGI'd in all the Force ghosts there helping Rey. I think that maybe had they done that, that would have been better, but definitely very cool hearing all the voices. Like we get Kanan, Ahsoka. Apparently Samuel L. Jackson didn't have anything better going on, so we got Mace Windu, Obi-Wan, Yoda, Luke, Anakin. And then wasn't there some random Jedi thrown in there, like Shakti or Adi Gala or something like that?
Yeah, something. I think
Probably.
so. Yeah.
Just like, well, why? I mean, how did she make the cut of all these Jedi? But apparently her agent was like, "Hey, I'm free." So it worked out for her to get in. And Ashley Eckstein voicing Ahsoka is very cool there. I do like that.
Yeah.
When I heard the line in the cinema, I immediately thought of Iron Man. Yeah, definitely gave off those vibes.
Yeah.
All right, so this is on Dr. Mad Studios' plans for the sequel trilogy. List a few of his ideas. For a start, Palpatine is dead. The Sith are gone forever. New threat to the galaxy is Yuzan Vong from Legends. Yeah, that's pretty awesome, and I think Ahsoka's fleshing out a little bit of that as we're watching it. Substitute some names, but I think that's going to be the main idea. Subpar version of I Am a Jedi like my father before me. I don't even know if that's what they were going for, but they kind of missed it if they were. Filoni almost had the Yuzan Vong in Clone Wars, so he thought about bringing them in, so he might eventually get them. Yeah, that would be super cool.
Yeah.
Luke never goes into exile, New Jedi Order in full swing, Rey as a Padawan, Ben being given the rank of Knight, Finn as a soldier. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. And Poe as a pilot. Yeah, nothing wrong with Poe Dameron's role. I don't think anyone has complaints on Poe. Like the scene with all the ships. Yeah, that was an awesome scene. I did like that as well.
Yeah.
Han dies, but by the Yuzan Vong, which causes Ben to struggle with the dark side because of his father's death. Yeah, that's fair. And the kiss is worse than the I am all the Jedi line. I'm with you there. I think that kiss is probably like the worst part of the movie, given its lack of explaining. Yeah, cool. All right. So, chat, we are getting ready for the main event, which is Rey Skywalker. So that's where we're going. So go ahead, start filling up the chat with whether you're a fan of Rey Skywalker or not. But don't just say
All
you
the
hate
hate.
it. Don't just say you hate it or just say you love it. You've got to defend why you hate it or why you love it and be respectful. That's all all I can ask here. Because I feel like this could be a topic of disrespect.
Yeah.
So, topic number 5, Rey Skywalker. I'm about to spoil the ending of the movie, so if you live under a turtle rock in a different galaxy, like in Ahsoka, and you haven't seen the end of Rise of Skywalker yet, spoiler warning, she kills Palpatine. She finishes the movie going back to Tatooine. She buries Anakin's lightsaber in sand, which was somewhat disrespectful. But she does that. She turns around. Some creepy old woman asks her, "Who are you?" Which is kind of the identity crisis Rey has found herself in through the whole movie. So I don't mind that they ask the question, because that question has been asked from 7, 8, and 9. But they ask, "Who is she?" And she just says, "I'm Rey," which the movie starts off with just Rey. Is what she tells the cute little people on Pisana. And then she says she is Rey Skywalker after seeing Leia and Luke's Force Ghost off in the distance on the Tatooine sunset. So she is Rey Skywalker. The bad guy has chosen to affiliate with the good guy's family. So, Christopher, we're going to start with you. Why is it okay that Rey adopts herself into the Skywalker family?
So I don't even know if I see it as her adopting herself into the Skywalker family. As I kind of see it more as she's kind of using that name because it's a legendary name, like Luke Skywalker said in The Last Jedi. You know, the legend of Luke Skywalker. It's because I was a legend that the galaxy knew about this and all that stuff. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he basically said it. It's because I'm a legend, because I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm a legend. So I think she kind of chose that name, one, to kind of go off of that legend. Like if she's going to train future Jedi, people are going to know the name Skywalker. People are going to hear the name Palpatine. They're going to be like, "What? No, okay, the Emperor, no." But Skywalker, it's a legendary name. I think she kind of looked over to Leia and Luke in the distance, kind of for their approval for that. Yes, I agree on that. But I think she did that more for like using the name for the future, like this future group of Jedi being Skywalker Jedi or whatever.
Yeah.
But then also, I think she did it going back to the Reylo thing. I think she did it in honor of Kylo Ren or Ben Solo, who has that mighty Skywalker blood as well. So he's technically part Skywalker as well. So I think that was more in honor of him as well, more than just like her adopting a name. So that's how I see the Rey Skywalker. Hey, I'm Rey Skywalker at the end of Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. Lex, what do you think?
In the most respectful way, I think it is uncalled for. Like it just doesn't, like, she's a Palpatine. She has the Palpatine power. I get where you're coming from, Chris, because it seems like that's where they're gonna go from here, is that they're gonna make her, start the new Jedi Order and stuff. And who would want a Jedi Order started by a Palpatine? Because obviously that's just like sus. But she is a Palpatine, and I think that she needs to be a Palpatine. Like, that's what this was about. Is she is the granddaughter of Palpatine, and now all of a sudden you're a Skywalker. Let's take a minute here. But she doesn't have any, like, I don't know. Yes, she had some type of affiliation with Leia and Luke and stuff, but I don't think that makes her enough to take the Skywalker name. You're a Jedi and stuff. I get that. But I think she just needed to own that she was a Palpatine and leave it at that. I don't think that there was anything that needed to, like, it could have just been the rise of Palpatine at the end of the day. And it didn't, like, I don't know why she felt the need to take the Skywalker name. Like, it bothers me.
Do you think that with the Rey movie coming out, that we're going to build a little bit more on the fact that she's now Rey Skywalker?
I think so.
I think you have to at this point
I
because
think so. Yeah.
you made it like it's almost like the movie ended and then they had that scene.
Yeah, yeah.
So like, to do that? You could have just left it. We didn't even need that scene. But for you to make that much of a point to then have her now be Rey Skywalker rather than Rey Palpatine, even though this entire time we're trying to figure out who she is, who her parents are, we figure it out, and then you change it. But I think that they're going to try to expand upon that. They don't really have a choice, I don't think.
Yeah. Now, Christopher, if I were to say that JJ retconned a lot of this stuff from episode 8, I think that is probably an agreeable point. So,
for sure.
What do you think about him retconning his own fact that she was a Palpatine that he started at the beginning of this movie? I mean, because he answers that she's a Palpatine, but then he's like, she's going to be a Skywalker now. Do you think JJ is a little too retcon happy with how he does things? Like, could he have made this better by being continuous? Is there a way he could have smoothed this over?
So you're talking about like in The Force Awakens when he hinted at her being a Palpatine?
Yeah, like almost the whole way he leads this up, and then like at the very end, he's just like, she chooses to be a Skywalker. Is there a way he could have still said, like, is there a way she could have said Rey Skywalker at the end, having been a Palpatine all the way through, and it have landed better than it did?
I don't know. I don't know if it could have landed better. But I think, like, I also think because, like, when Ben transferred pretty much all of his life essence into Rey to give her life again, I think that kind of also added to the Skywalker thing. Like, I think
that's good.
Part of Ben Solo is always going to be with Rey now.
Okay,
I think
that is a good point, Christopher.
Well. But
very good point.
Yeah, I don't know if they could. I don't know if they could have done it better.
You should have led with that.
I think it's a lot of. I think a lot of fans are just. I think it's more on the fan side where they don't like that. You know, she's not living up to the name Palpatine.
Right. Now, I will say there are a lot of like theological and philosophical connotations with her choosing. You know, despite the fact that she is as bad as she could be, she chooses not to affiliate with that, and who she truly is, she leans in her faith into something else per se. And so she kind of undertakes that role of Skywalker. I can get behind that because like all of us as people, we have the capacity of being really bad or messing up or whatever, and you can always choose better. And so I think I look to it a little bit along those lines as well.
Yeah.
Like she's choosing not to let her past define her and who she is, but it's unfortunate that they just put so much stock into what her past was. And then when she didn't like it, she's like, well, I guess I'm going to be a Skywalker now. So that would be my one complaint with it. Probably with this whole movie, though, it was really rushed getting to that point, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't mind her not choosing not to be a Palpatine. It's just, I don't think they landed the plane very well there.
No, and like I don't think it was. They spent enough time on that. Like had they spent more time on the whole, like the life force thing, I think people would have got it.
I really like that idea.
I think the life force is probably like the big reason why.
Christopher, I want you to rewrite the sequels. Keep it as close. No, but for like real, keep it as close to what it is as possible. But just throw in little things like that to make it make sense. And I would probably be a huge fan because that's pretty good thinking there. So let's see what the chat has to say. Kenzie liked how they made it seem like Finn and Rey were going to be a thing, and then completely fell off the map. I may be sensing some sarcasm. You mean Rey Palpatine own it? Yeah, she did not own her name. She technically killed her granddad. There's nothing Skywalker about her. Done. Period. Finished. Finite. Watto is more of a Skywalker. Yeah, I mean he had some affiliation with him, that's for sure. I originally thought Skywalker would be the term for the new Jedi. You know, that was a theory that people were floating out there, that there would be like this Skywalker breed of Jedi, because the expanded universe called the Force sensitives the Skywalkers, right? Or something along those lines. I think
Yeah, I think
that's
so.
what it is. Maybe in one of the Thrawn series or something like that. So the Vong invade the gap. Oh, so this is more of that theory. Yeah, very cool. Let me put myself not behind there. I would have wanted it to be her dying sadly, having Kylo Ren, having him be the last Skywalker makes more sense, or have both of them dying out of nowhere. Finn is the son of Leia Lando. That would have been a twist. Wow.
That would have been crazy.
Quite the twist there. I cannot.
And Jana is his sister.
And Finn is technically the last Skywalker. What a plot twist that would have been. I think that may have broke the fandom if that had happened. My cat is a Sky. I thought, well, your cats were in one of these Marvel movies, Tony. They'll do things like exploring the ruins of. Oh, wow. Yeah. You have got this thing planned out, Doctor. You have got all of this going on.
Yeah.
Very cool. You need to put pen to paper on this if you haven't already.
Heck yeah.
Oh, Christopher showing off the shirt. Does it say "I am no Jedi"? Is that what it says?
I am no Jedi. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was. That is.
Yeah.
Did you make that shirt?
Yeah, my wife did actually. So
very cool. Very cool. Skywalker, Life Force. Good point. Yeah, Christopher, I really think that may be the best point of this debate. Not that I'm gonna like the Rise of Skywalker after this, but that's gonna be my new headcanon for that whole situation.
Yeah.
Unlike the sequels, Anakin appears to Ben on his quest to help him on his path. How about if Anakin just appears to Ben and says like, "Hey kid, you got this wrong," just once? I don't know. That would have made a lot of sense. But let's let him figure it out on his own. I don't know. The Chiss called their force-sensitive navigator Skywalkers. I knew it was something like that. I thought it had to deal with Thrawn, but I couldn't quite remember. I can go on forever with these ideas of mine, but I'll stop here. Yeah. So I really do like all of the ideas there, though. And I think that's what makes Star Wars as great as it is we have our own canon, you know, and it is what it is. But we all get to be creative and have our own ideas of what Star Wars can be as well. And I think that's what makes it so special. So that's the end of the debate. I like it to be a respectful thing, which I think it was. I think we heard a lot of good points on both sides of it. So I don't expect us to change anyone's mind on anything. I don't think debates do that very often in real life, but it is nice to hear both sides of every argument. So guys, I think y'all did excellent here, defending or contradicting or criticizing each side. I think it was a great conversation. And we have one last chat I want to hop in here. Think the Rise of don't want to show that one. Yep. Don't want to show the last chat. My bad, guys. So I think that this this debate went very well for the most part. I do believe that this movie is still not excellent, but there are things to be had in every single movie that are good. And I think we pointed that out today, but there's also things that are not as great. So I'm glad we fleshed both of those out. But before we go, I do want to see, what do you guys have coming up on your channel? Jedi Lex, what have you got coming up next?
Nothing out of the ordinary, just some unboxing videos. I got a few packages I gotta open up, but gonna try to do some like walkthroughs of my collection, but honestly nothing crazy. I am trying to brainstorm a little bit of like a podcast myself where I have people come on and like kind of talk about their collection and their love for Star Wars, but that is in the works, so we'll see. I would definitely want you guys to come on if I do work out the kinks on that, but honestly nothing out of the ordinary.
You've had a lot of great countdowns lately. I've been loving watching those. I think your Ahsoka one, I knew what number one was going to be, but I love seeing these Ahsoka pops. So definitely go subscribe to Jedi Lex. She's got awesome Lego stuff, Funko Pops. She'll get Funko sodas. She does all of the collecting. So definitely go subscribe to her. Christopher, what do you have coming up next?
So I've got another Star Wars theory video coming out probably tomorrow morning. I've got my predictions for episode 8 of Ahsoka, the last episode of the Ahsoka series. I'm going to be doing my last reaction to the last episode, then my Easter eggs and WTF moments, and then my usual reviews of Funko Pops. I got that Mando, the Death Watch Mando from you that took over a month to get up here. So
Glad it showed up.
I'll be opening that up. So
the anticipation,
right? Yeah. So that was a day long remembered.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So definitely go check out Seriously Star Wars. Check out Christopher's channel as well. Give him a subscription if you haven't already. His Easter egg videos are some of my favorite. I think I told you the other day, but I rarely catch an Easter egg as it happens. So when you drop those videos, I'm like, oh yeah, that's super cool. So it enriches my viewing experience after I know all this stuff as well. So I'm glad that you go and dig those out for us.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yep. So that is it. Our next debate is not scheduled yet. I'm thinking we're going to do The Force Awakens just to wrap up the whole sequel trilogy. So we'll have 2 new people on to debate it. I'll have to find a hater for The Force Awakens and someone who loves it. And I think finding a hater for it will be a little more difficult than the other 2 movies. So I'm excited to see someone argue those out. So definitely stay tuned. We will have a monthly debate in October, and I hope to see you guys again. Thank you so much for joining us, and may the Force be with you.